Today we are going to look at solving simultaneous equations. In the previous 5 lessons, we've done quite a bit to look at substitution. We looked at the quadratic equation and we looked at inequalities, and now we're going to move on because in the exam you can easily get a question that says solve for x and y. Now if they give you one equation like this and they say solve for x and y, that's quite difficult. You can't really easily do this. But they will always give you 2 equations. They will say this y minus 2x equals minus 4, and x squared plus y at the same time also equals 4. So which y's and x's, or x and y's, will satisfy both these equations at the same time? Now how do we do this? Well, we number them to make it easy for us to refer back to those equations. So this is equation number 1 and this is equation number 2. It just makes it easy for you to give them numbers. And then what we do is we try and look at this and say, you know what, if only we had x's on the one side and a value on the other side. That's what we used to. This is what we've been doing in the previous lessons. We had x's and then a value, and normally that value was 0. Do you remember? We always tried to get a 0. Then we could solve this. But now we are stuck with these 2 y's, and I made them blue so you can see them. Fortunately, we know that equations gives us the opportunity to say this thing is exactly the same as that, and this is the same as that. And now we can start looking at which one of these 2 is the easiest to manipulate. And you see I put a red ring around this squared here. Can you see that this one is a little bit more complex than that one? Do you agree with me? Because we've got a quadratic equation here. We've got x squared. Here we've only got an x and y. So this one looks the easier one to use. There's only plus and minuses. And this one, we know because we've got our scale, we can change this so we can only have the y on one side. We can plus 2x on both sides, and then we'll end up with a y. So if we plus 2x on both sides in equation 1, you will see that we find y equals minus 4 plus 2x. I hope you are all happy with how we did this. If you're not sure, ask a friend, please. You must make sure that you know how to get from this equation 1 to this equation here. This one at the bottom here is exactly the same as that one. It's just written different because remember we had our scale, and what we did on the one side we did on the other side. It's still equal. Now we've got y equals minus 4 plus 2x. Why is that important? Let's just get rid of that scale and stuff. This whole thing here is exactly the same as y. And now this is, remember, from equation 1. Now we can go to equation 2 and say, you know what, instead of the y, we can write this whole little box here. So we can take the box and replace it there where the y is. Substitution, lesson 1. Can you remember? If you don't know how to do it, go back to lesson 1. How did we substitute? We put the brackets around it and we wrote the whole of the right hand side inside the brackets. The same thing. I'm going to go up again just quickly. Do you see that? I took the x squared plus and I just moved it to the side, and instead of the y I put my brackets and the value in the box, because the value in the box is the same as y. Now if we do this, can you see we only have x's on the one side and a value on the other side. So now we can take this thing here, get rid of the brackets like you've learned in your previous grades. How do we do it? The plus and the minus gives you a minus 4, and the plus gives you a plus 2x. All right. Now this looks like the stuff we did, I think, in lesson 2 or 3. What do we want on the right-hand side? We want a 0. How do we get it? Easy. We minus 4 on both sides. So we minus 4 on that side, minus 4 on this side. We end up with a 0 on the right-hand side, minus 4, and minus 4 is minus 8. And if we rewrite it in a different order, we can get x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. And you should jump for joy because this now looks familiar. this is a quadratic equation with a 0 on the right hand side. You know how to solve this. We've done that. So using your formula, you can find the values for x. If you don't know how, go back to the previous lessons. We've done it. If we use the formula in this equation, we will find that x equals minus 4 or x equals 2. Remember, we get two values where it's 0. So this graph will actually go through the x-axis at 2 points, minus 4 and 2. Is this the answer? No, this is not the answer. Why not? Because it said solve for x and y. What did we solve? We found two values for x. We said, okay, we've got an x is minus 4 or we've got an x equals to 2. What do we need to do? We need to now go and substitute these values for x. Fortunately, this one here, equation number 1, we have already rewritten it. So it says y equals minus 4 plus 2x. Remember this? We did that a few slides back. Now, if you substitute those values for x into this equation, it will give you the values for y that corresponds to these two x's. My question is this: how many values of y do you expect? You've got two values for x, so you expect two values for y. How do we write this? Well, we've worked out these values for x. Now we want to work out the value for y for each of these. So we say, if we want to replace this there, we've got to replace both. And we will write in the following. We will say, okay, if x equals minus 4, my first value, then y equals minus 4 plus 2x. So y equals minus 4 plus 2, and substitution, lesson 1. Brackets and a minus 4. That's what we put in here. You now know how to do this. So from now on, you're going to get full marks. It's very easy. Minus 4 multiplied with plus 2 gives you minus 8. Minus 8. Am I right? And minus 8 and minus 4 gives you minus 12. So if x equals minus 4, y equals minus 12. What about the other one? If x equals 2, then we say, right, let's substitute the same as we did there. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 4 plus 2 will give you 0. So if x equals 2, then y equals 0. Very important that you must remember those values go together. Remember on the graph, we had certain points on the graph, and each of those had an x value and a y value. So those goes together. If x is minus 4 here, then y will be minus 12. That's way down there. If x equals 2, that's here. Y equals 0. That's right on this point here. So solving those two equations gives me two pairs of answers. Okay. Check your answer. How do you check your answer? You must take this combination and replace it in here and see if that's true. Minus 4 and minus 12. If I put minus 4 in here, if I substitute, minus 2 multiplied by minus 4 will give you plus 8. The y is minus 12. Minus 12 plus 8 equals minus 4. Yep, I'm right. Take the other one. 2. 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. Y must be 0. 0 minus 4 is minus 4. I've checked my answer. So check your answer at the end. This is how easy you can get 6 marks. This comes from a November exam. Given this equation and that equation, solve for x and y simultaneously. Please go and practice a whole lot of these. If you're not sure, watch the video again. But make sure you follow it step by step. You solve for x and y simultaneously, and that will give you an easy 6 marks in the exam. That's the end of this lesson. Goodbye.